Hello, and I'm going to do a YouTube video with a therapeutic story called The Flowers and the Weeds. Once upon a time, there was a small flower named Belle, who lived in the corner of a large garden. As Belle grew up, she did not notice that around her were some weed seeds that had blown from another garden. The weeds had already begun to sprout, but still, they were not in the way, so Belle did not think about them. One morning, Belle woke up. It was still dark, and she was cold and very thirsty. She thought it must be too early in the morning, so she went back to sleep. She woke up a few hours later, but it was still dark and cold and dry. What had happened to the sun, she wondered. Suddenly, she noticed a flicker of light above her. It was the sun, but something was in the way. She then noticed that all around her were little weeds, which had grown into huge weeds, and now they were taking away her sunlight, her water, and her space to grow. Belle asked the weeds to leave, but they said they would not. Belle reached down and grabbed a bunch of them. She pulled and pulled, but they were too strong. If only she had pulled them out when they were tiny and had no roots. As the weeds grew bigger and stronger, Belle became weaker and less colourful. Belle felt there was no hope. Then one dark morning she heard a voice from below her. "Hi there," the voice said. Belle looked down and saw a groundhog. Belle told the groundhog to go away, but it just sat there and looked at her. "Why don't you get rid of these weeds and enjoy the beautiful sun? It is a great day out," said the groundhog. Belle cried and then told the groundhog her story. The groundhog nodded his head in understanding. He said there was a way to solve the problem and asked the flower if she wanted to have some help, and Belle nodded yes. The groundhog said if they worked together, he could help her pull out the weeds. They grabbed a bunch of weeds and started to pull together. They pulled and pulled and pulled, but the weeds did not budge. Belle was ready to give up. Suddenly, the groundhog started to laugh out loud and said, "I am so silly. I forgot the lesson my grandfather taught me about weeds. He told me if I ever face strong weeds to pull them out one at a time. Never in a bunch." Belle nodded. That made sense. Belle chose one of the weeds and they pulled together. They pulled, and slowly but surely the weed came out of the ground. She then picked another weed and together they pulled. Soon all the weeds were gone. Belle looked up at the beautiful sun, and the warmth of the sunlight felt so good. She took a big drink of water from the earth. She started to grow again, and soon she bloomed into a strong, beautifully coloured flower. Every morning from then on, Belle would wake up and take a big stretch. She would then look around her and pull out any small weeds that may have grown overnight, because when they were small and they were easy to pull, that was better. Groundhog would come by from time to time for a visit, and both of them would lie out in the sun and talk. And this story is by Greg Lubimiv. I wonder what your weeds are, and I'm wondering who might be the person who helps you pull them out. It's interesting to think on that.